question to kick this episode off with. And the question that I have for you today is, what do you think manifesting and getting a new pair of shoes have in common? Any thoughts? Well, overall, I will get into this, but the general and quick response is that you need to break them in and make them uniquely yours. Personalize it. Make it your vision, manifest your vision, and break in the shoes so that they fit you perfectly and really don't suit anyone else just as perfect. So that's what it is. You have to break them both in. And so first off, I will kind of walk through this process, and then I'll give you some examples and show you how this is, and show you a framework that exists and that is available that walks you through this process. And anybody can access it. I did not create it. I just show you guys how to work with it. So I will get to that at the tail end of this episode. So let's talk about shoes. I'm sure on some level, everyone has experienced getting a new pair of shoes and having to break them in. So when you find the shoes, you try them on at the store, or you see them, or you order them online, you know, they're beautiful and you love them. And even if they are the right size for your foot, they still need to be broken in. They need to become your unique pair of shoes. And so how do you do that? You walk in them, you wear them, you practice walking in them, especially if it's a type that you've never worn before. So they're beautiful. And when you put them on, they fit the size, but they're not quite right. And a woman, so I have worn like high heels and women's type shoes, other than tennis shoes. Those are pretty unique. When you're breaking in, you also hurt you get some sore feet for a while. And like I said, walking in high heels can hurt different parts of your foot, especially if you're not used to it. And you have to basically train your foot, and your feet have to learn how to walk and wear and be in these new types of shoes. And so attracting and manifesting your desires is the same in the sense that when you start attracting, when you start manifesting the things that you want, and even when you start experiencing them, you start living them, and they're exactly as you laid out in your journal or as the vision board portrayed for you, it still feels a bit uncomfortable at first, right? And why is it that it feels uncomfortable? Because it's not the norm yet. So think about this. Even though there are circumstances that you're in or that you have that you want to change for whatever reason, it can be you want to up-level the current situation and circumstances that you have, or you want to completely change them. You want to better, you want to move, whatever it is, some level of change is required, whether you're up-leveling or completely shifting. And the circumstance that you're in now is familiar, even if it's not a desirable situation or circumstance. You or your brain really at least know what to expect. You know what it feels like. You know how to navigate this situation. And that's the same thing possibly with an older pair of shoes that need to be replaced or that really have served their purpose. That doesn't mean there was anything bad about the shoe, right? So can you see how relating that and comparing that to your life, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with your life. It doesn't mean that it's bad necessarily. It means it's just not the season for that circumstance anymore. It's time to up level. It's time to move on. It's time to invite some change. It's time to actually get the pair of shoes or the life that you want versus having a pair that will do, or having a life that is okay, not terrible, but that it's a will do. There's nothing bad per se. You're not experiencing challenges or, anything terrible, but it's just not that dream in the sky. It's not that rock star vision. It's not that ultimate, oh, what if type of daydream, right? So if you can apply or relate any of these circumstances, then you can kind of follow along and see it from your perspective. So when you start attracting and manifesting things that you desire, it can feel uncomfortable, even if it's exactly what you want. And the way to move through that, the way to change that feeling of discomfort is to normalize it and continue doing it. Just like with the shoes. If you have a pair of shoes that you really love and all else is fine. The size is fine. There's nothing that's going to, cut the circulation off of your toes, all of the things. It is the right pair for you, but it hasn't been molded to your foot yet. The place where the weight where your foot distributes, the place where your foot distributes the weight. The touch points on the shoes have not been worn in for you yet. And so how do you do that? You keep wearing them. You keep walking in them. You keep using them. And little by little, some shoes sooner than others, they become yours. You don't develop the blisters anymore. It's worn down and worn in and comfortable to your foot. The exact same thing is true for manifesting and experiencing new things. It feels awkward because it's not normal. It feels like maybe this isn't for me because it's just not normal yet. So I invite you to think of a circumstance that you have actually experienced that was uncomfortable at first simply because it was new. And this does not necessarily have to do with manifesting. Think along the lines of like the first day at a new school, the first day at a new job, even if it's a job that you manifested that you loved, but just think general terms for that, for things you have actually experienced that were different, not normal, uncomfortable at first, but now it's like old hat. It's like, oh my gosh, you might have to actually think about what it felt like at first, like your first day at work or your first day at a new school or the first time you went to a class, a dance class, an art class, any type of class. Think of an experience that was different. You stuck with it or you continued going and it became normal. It's a process that your brain needs to go through. And so I think this is important to point out because many times I have heard people say, well, I manifested this and I didn't love it. I didn't have fun. I didn't know what to do. It wasn't natural. And so maybe I manifested the wrong thing, or maybe this wasn't the thing for me. No, you know your desires. And once you start moving in that direction and you start taking action, you develop clarity and maybe you tweak it and fine tune it. And there will be things, of course, that you say, oh, I manifested this opportunity and I'm doing it, but that's not quite right. And that's okay. You're never going to know that unless you actually take advantage of and try and do the thing. Try it. Give it a test run. It's like trying on new shoes at the shoe store. So I keep jumping back and forth between the two. But like when you're trying out new shoes at the shoe store, they have carpet, right? For the most part, shoe stores have carpet so that it doesn't develop scuff marks on the bottom of the shoes. So that if they're not quite right for you, if they're not the right fit, if they're not the right style, you can put them back and they're not going to be unsellable for the next person, right? You have to try all the styles of shoes. If they all are the right size, you still have to try them to see which one fits your foot better, which one's more comfortable. Do you need more arch support, less arch support? Is the heel too high? Is the heel too low? What is the front part? The box? I'm not sure if that's right. I think that in ballet shoes it is, but I had toe or point shoes at one point in my life. But is it too narrow? Is it too wide? Right? So just because you're trying something and you realize, oh, it's not quite the right fit, this isn't quite the opportunity that I was looking for, that's okay, because it's the same thing as trying on shoes. So I'm sharing this example with you because when you come up against this in the future and you're like, oh man, maybe I manifested the wrong thing. Maybe I just, got it totally off the mark. Nope. It's just not the right style. It's just not the right shoe. So do you feel bad when you put a pair of shoes on if they're pretty and cute and they look like they would be great? Do you feel bad that, oh no, this isn't quite the right fit? The top rubs on my ankle or it pinches here. No, you don't feel bad. Granted, you might feel a little bit of disappointment, like, oh man, I really like the shoes. They're cute. But you will find another pair of shoes. It might not be at that store. It might not be on that day, but you will find a pair of shoes that you fall in love with. Absolutely. And so keep that in mind when you try new things or you attract new opportunities and you find yourself saying, this isn't quite right. It's just not the right pair. That's all there is to it. There are other pairs to try and experience. So let me give you some examples of what this might look like. And then I'm going to share a personal example because I like to also give general examples as well as my personal so that you can kind of see how it plays out and you can start applying this to different scenarios in your life as well. So, for example, manifesting abundance or manifesting more money, higher income, anything along those lines is often something that people work towards or that have as an intention or a desire of theirs, of yours, if that's the case. And so when you start earning more money, when you start having more money in your bank account, when you start, just noticing that the balance in your bank account is higher than what it normally is, it feels a little uncomfortable, doesn't it? Your brain is used to seeing a range. And when it goes beyond that, it's like, okay, most of the time, the type of reaction, even if it's not conscious or that you're aware of, your brain is thinking, okay, let me go spend this on something that I want because otherwise it's just going to, get blown on something else. Or I might not have this amount of money available to me again because your brain is not used to it. So the simplest way to do something, to get used to having a new level of income, a new higher balance for the most part in your bank account, is to leave it there. Let it sit in your bank account or your savings account, however it is that you work and divvy up your money. Let it become normal by letting it sit there. Let your brain and your eyes and your nervous system get used to seeing this balance as the standard when you check your account, when you pay your bills and you still have a higher amount left, when you deposit higher amounts than you have been in the past, or you start depositing money more frequently if you have a business or you start a side business, whatever the case is, whatever way that you are manifesting and attracting more money, let it become normal by saying, okay, I'm going to sit here and get used to this. Because our tendency a lot of times is to spend it right away because our brain wants to tell us we'll never have this again. But the more it becomes normal, then you're like, oh, okay. Then you start finding yourself being able to, yeah, I can go to dinner with a friend. Yes, it's less worrisome, to buy, something for a friend or a family member or for myself. But by allowing yourself that break in time to normalize the amount, that's all you have to do. Let it sit there. Get your eyes and your brain used to seeing those numbers. Now, taking this to the next level, now maybe you've normalized and you feel a bit more steady, and you realize, okay, this is like my new income bracket. This is my new level of income that I've gotten in. Now the next thing that's going to become reality is treating myself and maybe pampering myself a little bit more, going to get my nails done, getting my hair done, getting massages, whatever the case is. And it doesn't have to be those things, but I'm using those as an example because oftentimes that's the next step that we try or that we go to. And so if it's not along those lines of like the personal pampering or the spa or treat, that type of luxury or pampering, if that's not your thing, maybe it's buying. Here's one that I talk about frequently. Maybe it's buying the next level up of things that you already use. Maybe it's buying my favorite example is to buy new, fancier, leveled up undies, right? Because if you're used to one level, buying like the multi-pack at Target or Walmart or ordering it off of Amazon, that's normal. But they're going to wear out at some point. So start this up-leveling process. If the pampering is not your thing, start it by getting a higher level of quality of products you already use. Nicer undies, a better quality of jacket, better quality hair care, skin care, toothpaste, go all natural, whatever the case is. There are products that you use and things that you buy on a regular basis that are your norm. And there is almost certainly guaranteed a higher level of that same product available in some way. So start with those things, and it will feel uncomfortable to pamper yourself and to experience these things. Your brain will tell you like you're being selfish. There is no need to do this so often. You're wasting. Now that you've gotten normal, you've normalized the amount of money. Now you're wasting the money. No, it's again that discomfort. So this is a cycle and a process that repeats over and over and over every time you move to a different level. Every time you change your circumstances, that needs to become a new normal of what you desire and what you're attracting by becoming this person. So now just my personal example is I changed the lifestyle, so to speak, that I had. And the identity, the way that I identify the roles that I played in my life, or a significant role. I changed my lifestyle or my identity from that of an employee to one of an entrepreneur or business owner. And that of creating a lifestyle of working for myself versus only working for someone else as an employee, right? As an employee, I was always given instructions, or I knew what to expect. I had a fairly regular paycheck that I received. I say fairly because the work that I did when I was, starting I still do it, but not on the same level, was a claims investigator. So I was out in the field a lot. So it wasn't like an office job in the sense where you came in and started at, 9 or 8 and then left at 4 or 5. It was based on the volume of work that was available and the assignments that we were getting. So that's where the fluctuation came in. But again, someone else was providing the work for me. I was working for an employer. They took the taxes out and all the things, and I didn't worry about that. So becoming my own boss and starting my own business, I had to get accustomed and comfortable with making my own decisions, scheduling my own day, having the time freedom that I desired. But it felt uncomfortable because I kind of felt directionless. Like, oh, what do I do? Where do I go? What do I work on? Because I didn't have that direction. And so that's what my challenge was, to actually develop that. And I'm going to do something just a little bit unconventional right now. I just realized I got the notification that my battery is going to die. So if you can imagine Jeopardy or some kind of music playing, I'm going to go get my plug real quick, and I will be back in probably less than 15 seconds. Hopefully you can listen to me as I get the plug. If you can still hear me. And I'm on my way back to plug in the computer. go. Well, see, that was unconventional, but we just go with it and make it work. Because that's what happens on live video, and I did not realize it wasn't plugged in. So now, I had to, just jumping right back in, I had to normalize making my own schedule, planning what I was going to be working on. And so I felt a little lost at first. And normalizing things like, since I've created this time freedom, normalizing being able to do random things in the middle of the week that I couldn't do before, like taking my dad down to my brother's house in the middle of the week. I could work from my brother's house, or I could change my schedule. I could plan to do things that way. And that felt a little awkward, a lot awkward at first, but now it's normal. Now, if you saw my stories on Facebook and Instagram the other day, I was working at a cafeteria at a courthouse downtown because my dad had to go to jury duty and he didn't know like where to go and how to do all the things. So I drove him. And was able to have my computer and my work with me. And I worked in the cafeteria while my dad did his thing. And before I manifested this lifestyle, I would have had to rearrange my day. I would have had to request time off or something along those lines. And I didn't have to do that. And it didn't faze me. It's like, yeah, I'll take you, no problem. I'll just work in the cafeteria. And that may seem kind of random, but I have intentionally created and am continuing to create this life that has space for flexibility like that. And so as an employee, that felt foreign to me, even though it's the exact thing that I desired. And so I had to go through the process of experiencing it, working really late at night because I didn't take advantage of the free time, the time that I had in the day, this time freedom that I had manifested. And so it was this breaking in learning process. And now I have developed and implemented systems, which I fine tune from time to time, but I developed these systems. And now this is a normal way of being for me. So as you get better and better at it, you start to learn what works. You start to use previous experience from the break-in process to realize that you can do this again, to realize that you've done this before. And so you have an idea of how to navigate the process. And the thing that I talk about very often as well is working with the lunar cycle. My business, Blue Moon Manifestations, is named after the moon. And so working with the lunar cycle provides a natural framework for you to do this with. You start with setting an intention, you start taking action, you release the resistance and the things that have come up for you that you realize don't align and are not moving you in the direction that you want. And so you call in additional opportunities or different opportunities. You call in this new way of being, and then you have to practice. You have to imagine, dream what this new way of being is for you and start practicing it. And so as of the date that I'm recording this, which is May 10th of 2023, we are a couple of days away from the third quarter moon. And that is that dreamy phase where you start imagining a new way forward. So whether you've set an intention at the new moon or not, you can jump in this lunar cycle work at any given time. So how can you imagine a new way of being? Think of something that, a circumstance or something that you would like to be a little bit different. Even if it's an up-leveled way or a completely new circumstance of life, how would that look? How would you navigate that? And if it's something you've never done before, you are working from imagination or from what you've seen other people do or try and what your desires are. And so just start imagining how you would spend your days. Like I said, how would you spend your days if you had more time available to you? How would you spend the money that you are now attracting and manifesting more of? Because it's very important to have a vision and an idea of where the money's going to go. So have a list of things that once this new level of income and bank balance becomes normal and you have more income to invest or for disposable income or for whatever area of life you're focusing on, how are you going to spend this new money? What types of clothes are you going to buy? What stores are you going to shop in or shop from? What's another one? What restaurants will you eat at? Will you change the grocery stores that you shop at? Will you change the fact that you don't go to the grocery store at all and now you have your groceries delivered? How do you imagine or see yourself experiencing this new way of being? And it might not play out exactly that way, and it might play out exactly that way. But this is how it starts to become normal. And it also helps that break-in process when you do this dreaming and imagining, because you have an idea. And you're like, okay, it feels awkward, but I'm going to go do this thing because I imagined it. I dreamt it. I have a little bit of a game plan as to how I'm going to be this new version of myself. So if this is something that resonates with you and you like this type of information or hearing this, I invite you to subscribe to the podcast so that you get notified when the new episodes go up, because the podcast has the Lunar Lessons podcast, which is exclusive only to the podcast platforms and is not on the Facebook Lives at all. So subscribe, share a review if it's something that you enjoy hearing, and share it. Pass it on to someone else who you think will also enjoy this information. And I would greatly appreciate it. So that is my episode today about new shoes and manifesting and how you need to break in both the shoes and the new experience or reality or circumstances that you are manifesting. So thank you so much. I will talk to you next time.